On today's show, let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks lost to the Memphis Grizzlies. Why was Luka Doncic out? And what happened with Kyrie Irving this game? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let me know in the comment section what's one thing that stood out to you, and then maybe just give Luka Doncic a little congrats in the comment section below as well. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Game Time, download the Game Time app, create a new account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Oh man, what a weird day for the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic, before the game, was said to be out for personal reasons. Everyone trying to figure out what's the reason why he's out for personal reasons. And then it comes out from a Slovenian website. I had a Slovenian fan, one of you guys, reach out to me and say, hey, look at this site. Luka Doncic and his fiance, Anna Maria, had a baby girl. And so I was like trying to confirm it and looking around, and then another site came up, and then another site came up, and then it was the Slovenia state media that even said Luka Doncic and his fiance had a baby girl, and then Luka confirmed it himself. They had a baby girl yesterday, Gabriella, and so congrats to Luka Doncic. I'm not sure if he's going to play in the OKC game on Saturday. We'll see. It's kind of a game time decision. We'll see what happens with him. Jason Kidd didn't speculate on it, so we won't speculate on it either here. But congrats to Luka Doncic. Incredible for him. He now becomes a girl dad. I'll have to bring on somebody with experience to talk about how he actually, how this actually changes him, because maybe it matures him. Maybe going forward he decides that he needs to be a little bit more mature. Maybe he doesn't get as much sleep. Who knows what's going to happen. So we'll talk to some other people. Maybe I'll bring Isaac on. He's a girl dad, so he'll bring some insight in that I can't bring on this. All right, let's talk about this Memphis Grizzlies game, because the Mavericks should have won this game. Like, you come into this game, you have Kyrie Irving, best player from both teams, right? You could maybe talk me into Jaren Jackson. He just won Defensive Player of the Year, but I don't know. It would take a while to convince me that Jaren Jackson is a better basketball player than Kyrie. Desmond Bane, okay, maybe, but you have Kyrie. You have a lot of your team still intact, and the Grizzlies have just been floundering. Like, this Grizzlies team, their wins have not been very impressive. They beat a Clippers team, but it was one of the first games with Harden, and so you're really not feeling good about any of the wins that the Grizzlies have had so far. Their vibes are trash. It's just been awful. And so you come into this game without Luka Doncic, without Tim Hardaway, without Exum now, without Maxi Kleber. You had to do a couple of things. The Mavericks had to control the pace. The Mavericks had to control their turnovers. The Mavericks had to get Jaren Jackson Jr. into foul trouble. The Mavericks had to contain Desmond Bane at least a little bit and let the other guys beat you. Well, they did most of those things. Jaren Jackson Jr. didn't play a ton in this game. What did he finish with? 13 minutes. He got 5 fouls, and Grant Williams did a great job drawing fouls on him. The Mavericks did a good job of attacking him and trying to get him into foul trouble, and they did. He didn't play a lot, and he wasn't a big impact on the Grizzlies team, but the Mavs got those things done, controlled the pace a little. They had 11 turnovers, which is just about their season average, and so they controlled that for a little bit. Some of those were costly, but overall, I thought the Mavericks did most of the things that you need to win. The problem was Kyrie Irving sold. Kyrie Irving, he finished with 3 of 15. He didn't make his first field goal of this game until the second half. It was just brutal trying to watch Kyrie in this game. Just seeing how Kyrie wasn't able to get some of the shots off that he wanted. He couldn't play off of anybody. All the attention was on him. And there were some things that were just off with him, so I'll go in on it why I think he struggled in this game, but there was just some weird stuff. He couldn't hold a dribble a couple of times. Like, he was trying to turn a corner with a dribble and he would lose the ball. Like, that's just not Kyrie, right? We're used to Kyrie, one of the best handles of all time in NBA history. So there's something going on with him. It seemed like he was off, but the Grizzlies, give them credit. The Grizzlies sent 2 to the ball. The Grizzlies were the ones that were attacking him, aggressive on him. The Grizzlies were the ones that took advantage of Kyrie getting all the attention. They're like, all right, we're going to put all our attention on you and try to have these other guys beat us. And it ended up working because Kyrie just could not beat them one-on-one. He couldn't get anything off. He saw 2 defenders every time he touched the ball. Kyrie finished with 3 of 15 from the field, missed all 5 of his threes, only went to the free throw line 5 times. He did have 5 assists, and he only had 1 turnover. So he made the right plays. Like, anytime he was double-teamed, I think he made the right play, kicked it out to the right guy, found the open guy. He was able to do that, and so I think he made the right choices out of it. The problem was Jason Kidd didn't try anything else. Like, they didn't try anything different. The Mavericks didn't try a lot of, like, all right, let's do double drag and try to make sure that we get a couple of these players in screens and stop some of these defenders from catching up with Kyrie. So it was frustrating to watch, and it was frustrating and just awful, like just a slog of a game to watch. And to see Kyrie Irving struggle in that way made me really wonder, okay, well, can a Kyrie-led team, if Luka does miss some more time, because this is Luka's first missed game of the season. If Kyrie does miss more time going forward, then what does that mean for this team? Like, can they win these games? We just talked about, Dana and I just talked about the other day, how the offense has been so good when Luka sits. Okay, well, now Kyrie plays, Luka doesn't, but Tim Hardaway also doesn't play, and the offense was terrible. I mean, for the game, the Mavericks had 100 offensive rating, which is just terrible, but for most of it was around 90, 95, even into the 80s at some points during the game. So just a big struggle overall. I mean, for the Grizzlies, Ja didn't play, Marcus Smart didn't play, Jaren Jackson Jr. barely played. It was basically the Grizzlies bench guys against the Mavericks bench guys, it felt like, and Kyrie still couldn't take advantage of it. That was really where the Mavericks really struggled in this. If Kyrie had gotten going, there were moments in this game I felt like if they started going on a run, if Kyrie went on like a 15-point personal run, like just even a stretch where he was scoring points like that, then the Mavericks could have pulled this one out. It was definitely there for them. There were times when the Mavericks were getting close. And so it's got to be on Kyrie. There's got to be some blame on Kyrie. I'll give blame to the coach. I'll give blame to rebounding a little bit later. But before you do any of that stuff, it's got to go on your stars. Like, this is the NBA. This is where stars step up. This is where stars, it was Kyrie's time tonight, and he didn't show up, and it wasn't a good game because of the way that the Grizzlies defended him and the way he couldn't get off a shot and all that. And so I think if you're going to start with any blame at all, it's got to start with Kyrie, and it's got to start with he just didn't get it done for the Mavericks. My second part of my blame, though, all right, Jason Kidd got completely outcoached in this game. I mean, completely. You look at the first couple of timeouts, and shout out to Mavs blog on Twitter for pointing this out. You look at the first couple of timeouts that the Grizzlies called. In the first quarter, they called a timeout at 7 minutes. The Grizzlies then went on an 11-3 run after that. Second quarter, at about the 7-minute mark, the Mavericks call a timeout. The Grizzlies go on a 7-0 run out of that. Another timeout. The Grizzlies went on like a 6-0 run after that. It felt like every stoppage of play, anytime Taylor Jenkins was able to collect his guys, get his guys together, and like coordinate everybody, they would go on a run. And there were the effort plays, the scheme on Kyrie. I felt like every aspect of the game, the Mavericks were outcoached and there was just out-schemed in every aspect. And so the other part of this is you've got to give blame to Jason Kidd, and you've got to give blame to the coaching staff because the Grizzlies were more prepared. They had the guys that came out and looked like they were ready to go. The Mavericks had the rest advantage too, so you can't even blame that. It wasn't like the Mavericks came into this with dead legs. The Mavericks have been here. They've been here for a week or so, and they had 3 days off before this. The Grizzlies had a couple, and you come into this, and you just get beat like this. Brutal, absolutely brutal. You look at just the way that the stars were used. It seemed like Desmond Bane was getting the ball on the move. It's either he was driving through the lane. It felt like he was driving from side to side, like driving from the corners or driving from the wings and getting to the rim. The Mavericks just didn't know what to do. In the mid-range, it felt like Desmond Bane and Jalen Noel were just killing the Mavericks over and over and over again. Overall, yeah, they finished the game. The Grizzlies shot 19 of 33 from the mid-range. That's 57%. 57% they shot in the mid-range. That's in the 92nd percentile. So that's an incredible percentage. They didn't even shoot from the 3 that well. It was just all those mid-range shots because the Mavericks defense was flying around trying to figure out what to do and not flying around in a good way. It felt like they were bunched up a lot. It felt like they were really trying to overcompensate for guys getting by them and driving by them, and like that's going to happen. It's the NBA. Guys are going to drive by you, but you can't panic and then all of a sudden two guys come to the ball and then all of a sudden another guy is helping from somewhere else and you're like, oh, now there's two or three guys open that doesn't make you kick out to, or everybody decides, oh wait, we're over helping, let's stop and run back to the guy that we were guarding before. So it was just a struggle. They got out coached in this game. Felt like the Mavericks, they didn't have anywhere else to turn to either. So coming up, let's talk about what we saw from everybody else. We talked about Kyrie. We talked about Jason Kidd. What do we see from everybody else in this game? We'll talk about that coming up. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds. I was talking with the Locked On Grizzlies guys before this game, and I was looking and saying, all right, no Luka, no Ja Morant, no Marcus Smart, no Tim Hardaway. You better take the under on this. You better take the under on the Dallas Mavericks and the Memphis Grizzlies. It was 225 was the over-under, so whatever they combined, the points that they combined would be the over-under. And as soon as we said it, it dropped to half a point, and they were definitely under. You should have hit the under on that one. So you can do all kinds of stuff like that on FanDuel. If you put $5 down on a money line and you win that game right now, you can get $150 in bonus bets. So go check that out on FanDuel.com/LockedOn. See what's available for you. Bunch of money lines out there. You can still bet on Cowboys games, Mavericks games, all kinds of stuff. Check it out. Again, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. All right, Isaac, let's get into the rest of this game. What do we see from everybody else in this game? Because we talked about Kyrie. We gave the blame away to Kyrie and Jason Kidd, but let's talk about some other players that I think stepped up a little bit. Grant Williams hit 3 threes, had 3 assists. I felt like he struggled in this game, but he struggled in a way where, all right, we finally saw something productive, right? We've been waiting for Grant Williams to have a game where he does something, right, where he doesn't just like score 0 points like he did against the Rockets or go 0 of 6 or 0 of 3 from 3. He hit a couple of threes. He went to the free throw line. He hit 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Got 8 rebounds, 3 assists. We saw something from Grant Williams. We saw him step up a little bit. Even though the Mavericks got outscored by 18 points when he was on the court, we still saw stuff from him. So I'll start with Grant Williams. Give him some credit. Even though he struggled from the floor and struggled shooting, he at least got something going. And honestly, like, there's not a ton of good to take away. So if that's where I'm starting, that's probably not a really good spot. I'll give credit to Josh Green, too. Josh Green in the first half, he scored 10 points in the first half, had a couple of assists, and then he just disappeared. Like the first 12 minutes of the game or so, he had 10 points. He was being aggressive. He was getting to the basket. He was taking the ball, and he was doing stuff with it. He had a real nice dump off to Dereck Lively. And we saw Josh Green really get into it, too, and I was excited to come on this postgame and say, yes, let's go, Josh Green. He finally had a bounce-back game where he had 20 points and 5 assists, or even 18 points and like 4 assists or something like that. But finished the game with 10 points and 5 assists. Just didn't do anything that whole second half, even the second half of the second quarter. So like the last 2/3 of the game, he really didn't have anything going. He rushed a lot. He had some turnovers. He had some bad turnovers in this game. He had some bad shots. He was 4 of 10. And so that's where we land with Josh Green in this one. Seth Curry, though. Seth Curry absolutely deserves some credit for how the Mavericks were able to stay in this game. He came off the bench, 16 minutes, 12 points. He had a couple of assists in this one, a steal. He had hit a couple of threes, and he was the catalyst for that run. They went on a run that got them back into that third quarter, and you saw them cut it to what? Oh, my gosh. They cut it to 6. It felt like it was way closer, but they cut it to 6 points in that third quarter, and I thought Seth Curry deserves a lot of credit. Shout out to Lauren Gunn, who was on Locked On Mavs a couple weeks ago, and she was like, we got to play Josh Green. We got to play Seth Curry more. We got to play Seth Curry more. And I was like, I don't know about that, but he's been great. He's been great in the minutes that we've seen from him. And in this game, he was really helpful, and the Mavericks desperately needed him, and that's why you have a Seth Curry, because of games like this where Luka's not going to play, where Kyrie doesn't play well. You know, they got to get ball handling and control from somebody, and they got it from Seth Curry. And so that's what we got from Seth Curry. All right, Jaden Hardy. I thought in the first half, Jaden Hardy had some good plays. He had 3 assists. He had 6 points in the first half. He had a lob to Lively. He had a lob to Richaun Holmes. He had a couple of good shots. He forced some stuff. He had some bad turnovers. It's what you're going to get from Jaden Hardy. Like, you're going to get that kind of stuff from him. You're going to get really good, and you're going to get really, really bad at the same time. I thought in the first half his effort on defense was a lot better too, but Jason Kidd went away from him. He decided not to play him in the second half. He decided not to put him out there. Seth Curry was playing better than him, so maybe that was the decision. they needed him to be better on defense, and he just wasn't. Like, he had to stay with some guys, and he had to switch, and he was part of the problem with the defense bunching around that I talked about in the first segment. Like, the defense was bunching around all over the place, and he was part of that. And so we saw some good from Hardy. We saw some bad from Hardy. Omax got some extended run. We saw him, and, man, there's not a ton that I can take from him, and from his minutes, he got a couple of assists. Really missed the three really badly. He's got to really slow down, and that's where the game really needs to slow down for Omax. I noticed that in this game. When he gets a shot or he gets the ball and he's got to do something with it, like it just almost feels like a panic. Like, oh God, I got to do something with it. Speaking of a little bit of a panic, Dereck Lively. I thought this was maybe his worst game that he didn't foul out in. Dereck Lively played 22 minutes. He had 4 points, 5 rebounds. Like, he fought for some rebounds, and that was good. But it felt like every time Dereck Lively was near the ball or past the ball, or the ball was in the vicinity of Dereck Lively from a rebound or something, it felt like the ball was getting taken out of his hands, or it felt like he was losing the ball in some way. He's got to work on his hands, and I was joking with a couple people on Twitter. He needs to work with some rock climbing experts, because in rock climbing they have these hang boards where you hang from them, and it helps your grip strength. Like, it helps you with your hands, and he's got to do that. He's got to work with a grip strength guy. He's got to help with those hands, because, man, it just felt like every time he got the ball was being swatted out of his hands or pushed somewhere else, or he didn't come down strong with a rebound. It's stuff he's going to learn. I'm not freaking out about it, because he's going to learn. He's going to have to deal with some of this stuff going forward, but it felt like he wasn't really effective. Even with Jaren Jackson not playing, I was curious before this game if he's going to struggle guarding Jaren Jackson Jr. the way that he did before, because he had in the past. The game the Mavericks played against the Grizzlies before, Dereck Lively had a couple of fouls on Jaren Jackson Jr. drives. He would drive to the lane, and Dereck would try to guard him, and he would get fouls on him, because it's hard. It's hard to guard these driving bigs. But he struggled in this game, I thought. It didn't really seem like he found an impact in this way. And that's one of the things that I'm curious about with him, is when he doesn't play with Luka Doncic, how does he look? How does he look offensively? How does he help the Mavericks going forward? Because you have to have that like, Luka makes he almost makes every center look good in the pick and roll, right? Like, he just makes them really look good, and he makes them look a lot better. How does Dereck Lively look without Luka? Saw a little bit of that tonight. It was kind of awkward trying to see where he could find his place in the offense. It felt like Jason Kidd didn't want to go to him very often down the stretch. I mean, he only played 22 minutes, and he had one foul. So it's not like he was in foul trouble. He just didn't want to go to him. And so he went with other guys. He went with Rashawn Holmes. We didn't see Dwight Powell at all in this game. So for those of you blaming Dwight Powell for things, he didn't play in this one. So you got to find somebody else to blame. I did think Rashawn Holmes had some good minutes. He had 5 points. He had a couple of putbacks. He had 3 offensive rebounds, a couple of assists. He gave you some okay stuff, but defensively, it's just a struggle. It's just a struggle for him to really contain anybody. He had what, 2 blocks? He had 2 blocks at the rim. Like, when he catches somebody at the rim, it's good. But whenever somebody drives by him, or it's easy to kind of get by him, it's easy to kind of hit the ball over him. But when somebody tries to go into his body, it feels like he's really good at blocking some shots there. Let me know in the comment section, what else did you see from guys in this game? It felt like I said at the beginning, Kyrie Irving didn't have a great game. Jason Kidd got completely outcoached. And the Mavs role players, like, nobody else from the role players really stepped up or waiting for somebody else, like a third guy. It has been Tim Hardaway. He wasn't in this game. It had been Dante Exum at times. He hasn't really. And so maybe it's Seth Curry. Maybe Curry is the guy that steps up for the Mavericks in this way. And so maybe he's the one that will step up for the Mavericks when they need a third ball handler, a third scorer, somebody like that. And so I'm curious what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section. By the way, they're setting up for this Leon Bridges concert right behind me. I don't know if you've been watching this whole time. It's pretty cool. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see them setting up right now and changing the lights and all that kind of stuff. But there you go. Let me know in the comment section. What's something that stood out to you about this game? How did you feel about Luka Doncic becoming a father now? That's going to be huge. What do you think it's going to change with him going forward? And, yeah, let me know all that stuff in the comment section. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom!